This episode is brought to you by my merch. Check out the new Life is Beautiful t-shirt. It's super cozy. It's the perfect spring vibe. I've been wearing it a lot, as you can see. georgepoulos.com/store. Your support helps me continue to express myself on this podcast. Enjoy the episode. All right, welcome back to the George Poulos podcast. We're back in Half Lotus in the bedroom, and I'm going to speak freely. Somebody asked me on Instagram, how long did it take me to be able to sit in Half Lotus like this? This actually came to me pretty easily because I've been a weirdo for a while. One way in which I have always kind of been tapped into my spirituality, my inner child, is that I love to sit on the floor. I absolutely love sitting on the floor. I sit in the floor in pretzel style. Sometimes I do this thing where like my legs are kind of folded off to one side. So, hanging out in the living room, a lot of the times I'm not sitting on the couch. I'm just sitting on the floor, laying on the floor. I have a bunch of experience with yoga. I've been skateboarding for my whole life. When I started learning about meditation, I was able to get into Half Lotus right away. If you are struggling to sit in Half Lotus, what I will say is that like it has gotten significantly more comfortable over time. Like I used to sit in Half Lotus and it felt kind of forced. And as I would be trying to meditate in Half Lotus, I would be distracted by my body. My back would start hurting. That sort of just got more comfortable over time to the point where now it's become one of my favorite positions to be in, period. I'll sit like this in the park. I'll sit like this in social situations. It like almost, because of, I guess, the association my brain makes with sitting in the Half Lotus position, it almost like instantaneously brings me into the present moment. Like whatever clouds were going on in my mind, in whatever ways I was performing, in a social situation, for example, sitting in Half Lotus can almost just instantly bring me back just like that. I'll be more comfortable being quiet in a social setting. Things just slow down and clarify. And I do think it's probably because of the association my brain ties with this body position and everything I've learned and experienced in meditation. If you are struggling to sit in Half Lotus, I highly recommend, I may say this word wrong, it's called the piriformis stretch, I believe. It's where I'll put an image up here. It's where you kind of grab your leg and you can really get that hip to flex. And then, I had wanted to, and take your time with it. Never force yourself into any yoga posture, take your time with it. I had wanted to get into full lotus for a long time. And basically I did the piriformis stretch for a long time. I would do pigeon pose, just a bunch of different stretches, never really forcing it. And then, one day I was able to just pop my legs into full lotus. Let's see if I could do it live on camera right now. My chair is going to squeak. Yeah, that one really starts to burn the ankles. So, ankle stretches could be another way to get it going. I don't think learning like how to sit in lotus is that important, but I will say for me, it's been a really nice technique. And yeah, like I get it. Like the body does fall into place. And I mentioned it in the last episode too, but raising the hips up a little bit on a meditation cushion. I'm sitting on a rolled up hoodie right now. So comfortable. And somehow, the body falls into alignment, and then therefore your spirit falls into alignment. In this episode, what I really feel compelled to speak about is something that just clicked for me. And it's this idea that the inner state of our being is everything. And the inner state of our being will determine what we experience outside of us, right? So it's very natural for us, because of our conditioning, to complain about outside circumstances. So I live in a busy city. Well, let me just tell you the story of how this clicked for me. I woke up to some fighting outside my window. I live on quite the active street. There's a lot of loud music, a lot of stuff going on. Once in a while, it can be, very disturbing to kind of hear people in distress, yelling, fighting, screaming outside, threatening each other, fighting each other. The other morning, I was hearing one of these fights outside, and because of, where my mind goes, anytime I get triggered, my mind always goes to like, okay, where does this indicate work I have to do on myself? Generally, this is a profound practice. If you ever get triggered, if a situation gets you, that's a great opportunity to ask yourself, why is this particular situation getting me? Why is this one pushing my button? Where does this show me that I have more work to do? Where does this show me that I am lacking in my state of inner peace? So I got woken up by the fighting outside, and it really got me. I was stressed. I was like, do I need to move to the woods? Like, what am I doing here in the city? Like, right, there was a temptation to blame how I was feeling inside on that fight outside, on the city environment, right? I immediately blamed the external circumstances, started complaining, started wanting to change my outside circumstances. And this is like the natural thing pre-spiritual awakening. This is the natural thing to do whenever something goes wrong. We assume that we need to fix something outside. But my thought process immediately went like this. If I was purely at peace within myself, that would do nothing. That fight outside would do nothing to me. Clearly, if that fight outside triggered something in me, there must have been a dormant sense of stress or anxiety that situation just happened to poke at, right? So yes, I could escape that particular trigger by running away and going to the woods and being alone. But here I am. The universe put me here on that morning, in this room, in these circumstances, with that fight outside, and I got triggered, which must mean that I have more inner peace to do, because there's been chaos out there on the street, and it hasn't affected me at all. I don't know who I heard say this, but when I was like first learning how to meditate, and maybe I was like doing a guided meditation, someone was like, yeah, it's great and it's easier to meditate when it's like purely silent, and maybe you're with a group of people who are meditating in a peaceful and tranquil environment. But the real world isn't always like that. And if you're trying to meditate in a city, there might be a jackhammer outside, right? And it can be tempting to be angry that jackhammer is getting in the way of your meditation. But all you're doing if you're getting angry at an outside circumstance is you're feeling something that is inside of you, right? What's happening outside in the world is going to go on happening no matter what. What we are in control of is our own inner state, right? If we're at a state of inner peace, no matter what people go on doing around us, it's not going to shake us from our center. Right? So I was shaken from my center by being woken up by this fighting, which indicated to me that there is some place inside of me that I have more work to do. I think this is really, this sort of idea can be very profound when it comes to relating with other people, right? A huge way that we get triggered in this life is when we're in a relationship. a friendship, really any relationship. It could be a lover, a friend, a family member. We get triggered in these relationships, right? And the temptation is often to want them to change, right? All of these spiritual learnings are so connected, right? So like with the fight that I was experiencing outside my window, I immediately jumped to, I need to move to the woods and be alone. What am I doing here? This environment is not for me. But really, me getting worked up about that was just a reflection of my inner state. And that could have been, right, that probably wouldn't have arisen, but it would have been still inside of me, even in the woods, just waiting for the right opportunity for it to come up. And really, it's nice to see triggers as like these blessings from the universe, that these are actually showing you where your work lies. Being triggered is an opportunity to grow. It's really profound to view relationships like this, because then when someone else triggers you or gets you, they get you worked up, angry, off center, anxious, stressed, rather than these being indications that someone else wronged you, which, maybe they did, but it doesn't really matter. Really what we should do is see them as where we still have work to do on ourselves. Again, because people are going to go on doing what people do, right? People are going to over-cling to you. People are going to drift from you. People are going to project their anger onto you. That is going to go on happening. All we can do is control our own reaction. I was thinking about this in terms of the journey I've been on with social media comments, right? So I used to accept all this negativity, hate comments, judgment from people in my social media comments, right? And this made it very hard for me to transition to the spiritual content because, people from my former audience were judging me, trying to control me into, continuing to do my old sorts of content, calling me crazy, woo-woo, corny, just like all the other all this negativity, right? And because I was not at center in myself, I listened to that, right? And my own listening to it is the only thing that made it real, right? Whatever our inner state is, we will see it reflected out there, because people outside of us are going to go on doing what people do. There's going to be people who hate us. There's going to be people who love us. There's going to be people who don't give a shit about us. Every possible reaction to what we're doing exists out there. So whatever our belief about ourselves is, that's who we're going to pay attention to out there, right? So as I came to an acceptance of myself and where I was at creatively, and generally just more of a trust in my own experience as opposed to others' opinions of me, I started blocking everyone who left a hateful comment, a judgmental comment. I would block people who so much as tell me what to do, maybe not from a consciously hurtful or mean place, but people who would try to control me for whatever reason, tell me what to do, tell me what sort of creativity I should do. I would just start blocking these people, right? Because I was like, I was shifting the focus to my own inner being and how I feel about what I'm doing. So I stopped paying attention to this negativity, right? And it's really interesting. And then at some point I turned off comments on all of my posts because I just didn't even want it to enter my headspace at all, let alone see it and then block them. I didn't want to see anything positive or negative. And over time, it's really interesting. What I've noticed, especially on Instagram, is that now what I'm seeing in the comments is actually reflective of what my inner state is now, which is an acceptance of self, which is non-judgmental, which is love, right? So that there was almost a lag there. The social media comments were still reflecting my past self, where I was insecure, where I judged myself, where I was nervous about expressing new forms of creativity. But as I came to that center and belief in myself and started taking actions to support my inner state, right? My inner state simply spread outwards in the form of blocking, turning off comments, etc. Over time, what I saw in the comment section of social media started to accurately reflect my inner state. So it caught up. And it makes sense because everything you see on my social media profile, even this very podcast, it's not me anymore, right? It's all in the past. Everything you see on social media of mine, it all happened in the past. And so that energy that I was putting out in the past where I was more insecure was attracting the same energy. Now that I'm actually comfortable with myself and I don't need anyone's approval, now I'm seeing that more confident, wholesome, mature energy coming in. If you're totally at peace within yourself, nothing outside of you is going to rock that peace. And if that peace does get rocked, it shows you where you have work to do on yourself. All right, reading from the journal. All right, in combination with the fight outside last night, I also woke up to a hateful comment. And I think the combination of everything brought me to a place of stress. I wondered, where does this indicate work I have to do on myself? Thank you, Ram Dass. Because these unconscious, hateful comments are still getting me. Obviously, I've made great strides, but I'm still not 100% sending compassion and moving on. I can still feel a little hurt sometimes. I've noticed, though, on Instagram, I seem to have crossed some sort of hump. I've blocked and muted and removed enough toxicity that I am now largely only attracting positivity. The social media platforms, since I use them so unconsciously for so long, need time to accurately reflect my new inner state. And recall that on Instagram it did take time. Lots of posts with comments off, etc., and probably blocking hundreds of accounts. I went through a similar thought pattern with the fight outside. Since this is getting me, what work does it indicate I have to do on myself? There was an immediate impulse to drive out of town, but I believe this was reactionary. The fight simply activated a stress that was dormant inside of me waiting to come out. If I was totally at peace within myself, no stress would arise about the affairs of other people. I keep wondering as I approach inner peace, why am I still so drawn to the city with all of its chaos and distractions? And a thought just came to me. Maybe this is my assignment. Maybe the universe knows that I am capable of being at peace here in New York City. Maybe my assignment is to emanate peace and love here. I keep remembering that everything is a reflection of the inner state. If you are at peace, there is peace. If you are stressed, there is stressed. Every possible inner state that you could be in also exists out there in New York City, ready to be reflected back to you. I remember talking to Nathaniel Drew recently, and he was asking me about living in New York City. And I was telling him that New York City is a giant mirror of whatever your inner state is at the time, right? There are so many people here going through so much different shit that if you're going through a stressful time, you will see stress around you in New York City. But if you are at peace, you will find peace in New York City. And it's almost like being in a city like this, it just gives you this rapid opportunity to grow, right? Because again, if I was alone by myself in the woods, I wouldn't really be getting triggered by the things that other people were going through. It's almost like being in New York City is an advanced course in spirituality because there's so many people just ready to dump their unconscious trauma onto you. And, it takes a really solid sense of inner peace to stay grounded amidst all the chaos that's going outside. And if you can really reach a state of inner peace, all the chaos will continue to go on around you, but it will not affect you. You will glide right through it and find the peace within the chaos. Really profound lesson for our human relationships. If you shift your focus from, oh my God, yeah, it's like really profound. It's like the prior way of doing things is like, I need to control this person into making me comfortable at all times. But really, it's like we want to be triggered. Like if someone can really get to us like that, we got some work to do. And that doesn't mean, right, I've talked about this in the love and dating episodes. That doesn't mean accept abuse. But if someone's just being them and being a free, autonomous individual, and we're getting triggered by it because our needs aren't being met, that really shows us where we have some more self-love to cultivate, right? If you love yourself to your core and you're good on your own, you can relate to people in this very free place. And there's no need to control anyone into giving you things, right? The relationship becomes more of this dance. And that's why it's important to get to a place where you love yourself deeply to your core. Because then if someone's journey involves some distance, some space, you can continue to dance on your own, and then different people will come in, right? All right, that's kind of what I wanted to share in this episode about how the inner state is everything. The inner state determines what you will see. And if you get triggered by something external, remember, external situations, totally outside of our control. People are going to continue to be people. People will be neurotic. Some people will be enlightened. They'll do all sorts of things that if you're not filled to the brim with self-love, it will get you. And if you get got, don't worry about it, but meditate on it. Continue to cultivate that self-love. Figure out where that trigger indicates where your work lies, where you can love yourself and accept yourself more deeply. All right, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you again for tuning in. As a reminder, this episode was brought to you by my own merch. Check out the new Life is Beautiful t-shirt at georgepoulos.com/store. Your support goes a long way, and the t-shirt is sick. And as always, please ask me your questions, whatever you're going through spiritually, relationships, anything really, meditation. I'd love to answer your questions on the podcast. Leave it in the comments down below or shoot me a DM. Namaste. I'll catch you next time.